Hi, everyone. I'm Alex Schmider, GLAAD's Associate Director of Transgender Representation, and today I'm so excited to be speaking to MJ Bassett, who is a prolific director of films like Solomon Kane, Ash vs. Evil Dead, Death Watch, Silent Hill, Revelation, and now Rogue, starring Megan
That's the one
from Lionsgate, and it comes out August 28th. MJ, thank you so much for chatting with me today.
You're very welcome. It's nice to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. So first of all, congratulations on the film. I know you've had a bit of an unexpected journey to making it. Can you tell us a little bit about how Rogue came to be?
Well, the weird thing about Rogue for me was that it's a perfect synthesis of the two great passions of my life. And one is filmmaking. Obviously, I do that for a living. But the other one is natural history and conservation. So really, this has been a sort of 25, or how old am I? Much older than that, 30-year trajectory from being passionate about natural history as a child, wanting to be a vet, working as a vet's assistant, running a wildlife hospital, flying falcons, working in a zoo, appearing on TV in the UK, hosting natural history and wildlife programs in the late 80s when I was still a teenager, being trained as a wildlife filmmaker, photographer. Then I moved into feature film and TV for the last 25 years. So I left that behind in my professional life, but sort of kept my passion in my private life. So when the opportunity to make Rogue came along, it was perfect for me. And that came about because a producer friend of mine who I hadn't worked with, we were just talking one day and she said to me, I think I've got some money for low budget movies that have a kind of environmental theme. Would you be interested in being an executive producer of them? Because I know that you know this subject and you're passionate about it. And I said, no, I want to write and direct them. And she said, well, there's no money because they're very low budget. I said, I don't care about the money. I've made a good living. What I want to do now is things that are really, really important to me. And I said, oh, give me a couple of days. Let me think of some stories. And she wanted 3 movies. And I said, okay, let me produce, write, and direct them. The first one I want to be about lion farming in Southern Africa, which is a little known but important thing for me, where lions are being bred for their body parts, for Asian medicine, traditional medicine, and for canned hunting, and the cubs are being bred for the tourist trade. And basically, at the end of the day, all these lions are killed and they're used, just like any piece of livestock. And I found that very disgraceful and upsetting, and thought, if I can make a genre action movie, which is super entertaining, lots of fun, barrels along in all the things I like to do as a filmmaker, but at the same time has a message, then I'll be happy to do that. And I said, listen, I'll do it. I don't care about the money. Let me just make the movie I want to make. And Molly and the studio said, yep, go for it. And that's what I've been doing.
Wow. I mean, I love that. And I love that you have sort of been on this journey for 25 plus years, and it's always been sort of in your DNA to tell stories that really matter about the issues that are happening in the world. I mean,
totally.
What about this moment specifically really has drawn you back into wanting to tell these kind of stories that have messages within them, but not sort of be over the head and sort of educate? Like, is there something about this moment that we're currently living that just inspires you?
Well, there's 2 things really. When you frame the question like that, there are 2 things. One, I think we're hitting a crisis point in how we as a species deal with the planet that we live on. In the 80s, when I think I was 16 years old on TV, talking about acid rain, climate change, and the problems we were having with the ozone layer at the time, and that's obviously come back as well. And I was told by my producers, don't talk about that stuff, it's scary. Nobody wants to hear it. So some of us were sort of promoting those problems back then. And I admit that I haven't publicly pushed this agenda, because I was busy raising a family, being myself, making a career, privately doing it, but not wanting to be a sort of a tall poppy in a situation where it wasn't working. But always feeling like I need to do something publicly and use whatever platform I have. And there are like the Leonardo DiCaprios of the world, they're the people who are really being listened to and pushing the agenda. I think when I came out finally as trans, I also realized that I wanted to just be more honest about not just who I was as a person, but how I felt about things. And I'm deeply moved by human suffering, but I feel like I want to talk about the planet, because the human suffering is going to be inconsequential if the planet dies around us, because that suffering will be repeated 1,000-fold. across the world. And I think something like the respect we have for wildlife reflects on a much larger feeling about how we have the whole planet. So if we are prepared to kill lions for their bones, poison entire prides of lion just for a traditional medicine, that speaks volumes to how we treat the planet as an entity.
And each other. I mean, I love how so much of what you're working on is interconnected too, because the health of the planet also relates to the health of humanity, to the health of animal. I mean, it is all so connected in ways that I think a lot of people may not see at
Yeah,
first.
we live in an ecosystem. We can't get away from the fact that though we've stepped out the Darwinian loop to a certain extent, in that, you know, the survival of the fittest no longer prevails, because as a society we're able to help the less fit, because that's a wonderful advancement in all our societies. At the same time, it excludes you from the larger, more a kind of the Gaia view, if we like. And I'm not a hippie. I'm a Darwinian reductionist to the core of my being. I know that nature is red in tooth and claw. I know that survival of the fittest really works. But at the same time, because we are capable with our intellects to create as individuals and as a collective society to do better, we should. It doesn't harm us to pick up our own litter. It doesn't harm us to be kinder to people. And greed is not good. Greed is damaging. And I think those are the things which I think we're learning that now. And you see this kind of this bifurcation of society, particularly in the West. I'm getting very political, sorry. But the notion that greed drives everything. Now, I believe science will save us. I think science has to save us. The scientific method has to be respected. So those elements are the things that we have to grab hold of. We can't dismiss these things. We can't return to a state where, well, the LGBT community is being, you know, marginalized again. I can't believe it. I came out and we're getting forced back in the closet. It's like crazy, right? You know, and I've worked, for instance, in Budapest, like in Hungary, you know, and where they are once again marginalizing trans people, not recognizing them in Parliament. Poland, what it's doing right now, and I feel this wave. And I feel this depression and this weight. And, you know, it's like, I don't even know where to point my camera anymore to tell these stories. But I know my natural history. I have my passion for nature. And I feel that's a place where I can be. Also, do like to blow stuff up and drive cars and shoot guns. So let's do both, huh?
Yeah, you don't have to sacrifice one for the other. And to what you were saying earlier about the fact that, you know, when you found out who you were and wanted to be more open and public about the issues that matter to you, I think even your representation and position as a well-known director, you know, that's it's not just representation on screen. It's not just stories of, you know, fictional characters. It's also seeing people in real life doing what they love, getting to know them as people and as what they, in the positions that they love to do. And for you, that's directing. So like, you know, sort of pivoting a little bit, there aren't many women who are action directors that we know of, and let alone trans women directors. So what would you like to see about the future of the stories that we're telling and how we're doing it behind the camera and in front?
I would like it not to be relevant. That's my final aim, is that I know, you know, when I came out, there's, you know, the Wachowskis, Lana and Lily, obviously they're the ones who, for me, were the role models in many ways, partly because they work in genre, and also they came out sort of publicly after they'd been known as them in their male forms, as it presented in their male way. Now, I know like Janet Mock and trans women directors like that, I've only ever known them in that way, right? So I've not seen anybody having to transition publicly. So you can go online and you can see my before pictures and my after pictures, and I can't get away from my past. So there's a slightly different vibe. The other thing is that when I first came out, you know, the nature of the material I was being sent radically shifted. Right? And by the way, you're very kind, but I'm not very well known. I'm not a very successful director. I just muddle through, right? But, you know, I started getting things that were more romantic, that were more relationshipy. You know, the LGBTQ script started coming through. And the truth is, it didn't really change what I wanted to make. I still like to blow shit up, right? I'm good at that. There are directors who are far, far better at the nuance of relationships. What I found I could now bring to the table that I could never really do before when I was living this more repressed, slightly depressed life. And that's not to say that I didn't have moments of enormous happiness with my families, but that I felt that I could be more honest about how I engage with the emotional resonance of the stories I was telling.
Mm.
So I could do, still do all the action, but perhaps connect with the actors better, be more honest about the moments I was trying to explore. And, to bring it back down to Rogue is the first thing that I've done fully as myself since I came out.
Mm.
I've done lots of work, but there've always been other people's scripts and projects. With Rogue, it was entirely a thing that I wanted to tell and a message I wanted to give. And I'd worked with some of those actors, all the way through my career as well. So they knew me in every form. And then now they're working with me on set going, you're much nicer to work for now. I'm still super tough. I still drive the whole thing very, 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 I think, aggressively, but it's not that anymore. It's just with passion.
Right.
And, everyone knows they've got to get on the machine and we ride that machine until the end. But I think I do it with more compassion and understanding. So it's in my work and in my personal life has changed so radically, I hope. It feels like it.
I mean, I didn't know you at any other point other than the first time we're meeting now, but I just see in your eyes this passion for the stories that you're telling and wanting to blow shit up and not, compromise that or do any. I mean, if that's what you love and that's what you're good at, I love that you're leaning into that. And I think it's really interesting to hear that the project sort of started to shift, but that you so know who you are and what you want to do that you were able to continue on that path.
Well, it's the process of the filmmaking as well. I mean, what I can't really do is claim to be the best trans action director because Lana's out there and I can't beat what she does in The Matrix and those kind of things. But I'm good at my level, and I do a different kind of thing. I do a slightly more kinetic, visceral sort of filmmaking. That's a product of being low budget, but it's also that's just how I do what I do. So it is that sense of like, I changed, but what I loved didn't. My horizons expanded. The box that I'd put myself in and that everybody else then obviously saw me as, that's opening up. And I feel completely, completely free now. I'm also not so aggressively pursuing a career anymore. I love to work. I love to shoot. That's what I like. I like to be on a film set shooting stuff. I love working with actors. I love sorting out problems. I love driving jeeps through jungles and blocking a gunfight and then figuring out where an emotional beat is in the middle of all that. And none of that's changed for me. I love it more than I ever did because I'm happy now.
That's profound. Thank you for sharing that. And Rogue was also different in that your daughter wrote the script. So it was very a family production in some ways. Can you talk about that process?
Well, I mean, it's a family production. So all my children, I have 3 children, they're all in the film business, even though they all swore they never would be. But they all went into the film business. My son's a first AD, which is, a very important position on the set. So he's doing great. He's my eldest. My middle daughter's a makeup artist and a photographer, and she's about to come and be the head of makeup on my next movie. And my youngest daughter, Isabel, she's a writer and she does a little bit of acting as well. She never really wanted to be an actress, but she's an incredibly good writer. But she doesn't write anything like genre. She doesn't like genre at all. So I've been feeding her the sci-fi and fantasy, and she's never took any interest in them at all. One day she put a screenplay on my desk and said, "Look, I've written this screenplay," and I read it, and it's very, very good. And I thought, okay, you do have a great voice. I went back to her and said, I want to do this movie Rogue. I'm actually working on a bunch of other things, TV shows that I had to be away to work on. I need a draft of this story. So I wrote the story outline. I gave her a treatment. I said, just take a swing at this with your voice and your eye, what you come up with. So she wrote the draft for me, and it was really strong. It was really had very interesting nuance and some technique in there. I rewrote it again. She beat me up for the changes I made. I then argued with her. Then we rewrote it together. The script turned out great. Got ourselves a green light. And then it came down to casting it. And the story involves like 3 kidnapped girls. And I said, what, can you be one of the girls? You've done a little bit of acting. You're pretty good. Essentially the character is her in real life, a gobby, opinionated, teenager. And she said, yeah, all right, I'll come. and it was just wonderful working with her. You know, we managed to put away the sort of the parent-child dynamic to be, you know, just professional people working together, but also enjoying each other's company. She knows me well enough, and she's obviously been with me on this personal journey the last couple of years. You know, to know that I just surround myself with people I love. It was wonderful. You know, we still argue all the time, but I desperately try not to treat her like a child, and I think she tries to not treat me like a parent.
I love that. I love that. And obviously you can see, you know, everyone that is on the set in the film does have this really strong connection. You can just sense the different relationship dynamics that are so powerful. And so I wanted to ask, you know, a part of that is that you add humor
Yes.
to the dialogue, into the storyline. And obviously, you know, everyone's talked about the Backstreet Boys song that you included. Can you tell me and us a little bit about how you like to use humor?
Well, I said, yeah, absolutely. Well, I ran an action show called Strike Back for many seasons. It was a HBO Cinemax show, and it was wall-to-wall action. And Philip Winchester, who's one of the two leads, who's in Rogue, is a very good friend of mine now. And he knows that, and we both know that to get an audience to come with you during sort of intense, dark moments, you also have to lighten them with humor. So the humor was built into the script. And also I've worked with a lot of veterans and tough guys, fighters and soldiers and people like that. And they always kind of mask their tension and their fears through humor. It's a survival technique. So I always build that into any action I want. I want the audience to smile. I want there to be a laugh beat as much as I want there to be a jump or an action beat, because it just has to. That's humanity, right? I don't like anybody who doesn't smile. I want people to smile and have a good time. And then the flip of that, I allow people just to really play with the script, and I like to riff on things. I know what my words are. I know what the intent is. And I knew that when I built the cast for this movie, I knew almost everybody who I cast. I'd worked with them previously. There was a handful who were new to me, but very quickly you figure out, oh, you're part of my clan. You see the world the way I do. You know, you're tough. You don't mind getting bruised and cuts and scrapes. You want to work with people. You want to work as a team. You want to. It's like, you know who your people are.
Yeah.
And I like tough guys, but I like tough, sensitive guys. And I like to portray tough women as well. And obviously, you know, Megan is the lady who came in to lead the whole thing. And Megan was interesting because I didn't know what she was going to be like. You know, she was the only one I didn't know, but she became a hugely important part of the whole process of the film because she's Megan Fox, right? And I'd sort of dismissed her because I thought, oh, you can't do this. This isn't your vibe. But, you know, we trained her. I told her that would be the toughest thing she ever did. I think she probably would admit that it is. It was incredibly intense 22 days. Come to Africa, get covered in shit, run around with guns, be near flames and smoke and, you know, dangerous situations. Let's have some fun. She completely embraced it.
I love that too, because, you know, I think as people, we sometimes make expectations and assumptions about people. And then you see with Megan Fox, she just dove right in, like this was something she really wanted to do and be a part of. And I think, you know, you've talked a little bit about having strong women characters. I wish we didn't have to say strong women, like it could just be assumed that women are strong, but we are not at that point yet. What about, you know, specifically this character that you wrote and this story was important for you to have someone like Megan Fox play this really incredible mission-focused woman who is all about completing the mission. I mean, that's what she wants to do.
Totally.
Why was that?
But yes, well, I think the thing about her character that's so important to me, and I think interesting, is that she's a strong person. She's a strong human character, and her gender is irrelevant at the beginning of the movie. She's tough and capable, and as the characters say, you know, she might be too tough. She might be too inaccessible and mission focused. And this grew out of a little thing I knew. You know, some of the soldiers I work with, we talk about scenarios in various shows I've done, and I say, well, what about rescuing these civilians? They go, no, that's not the mission. The mission is the mission, right? And if you can't do that, you're not following your orders. And I like that a lot. And then the underlying thematics of the whole movie is motherhood
Mm.
and the power of motherhood and what you would do to protect yours. And when you finally watch the movie, people will hopefully understand why that, without wanting to give anything away, why that's important. With Megan's character, Samantha O'Hara, it was her femininity has become inconsequential and irrelevant to her through the course of what she's done. She's lived in a very masculine world
Mm-hmm.
and completely subjugated her femininity to that. But what she realizes by the end of the movie is that the maternal instinct and the instinct to protect is more powerful than the instinct to attack.
Mm.
And I find that very, and she says, there's a line in the movie where she says, you know, sometimes not killing is the most powerful thing of all, and whilst being capable of doing that. So I wanted a powerful female character to actually not be a female character at all initially.
Yeah.
Now that's tricky with Megan because she's obviously one of the most beautiful women in the world and known for her, you know, the perception of her sexuality and her availability, the way she's been portrayed by other directors, and you know, by the modeling she does, and you know, to a certain extent she's aware of that. And I think what she liked about this role was a chance to not do any of that. I don't put her in any skimpy costumes. She wears the same kind of battle rattle as everybody else. Looks great in it. You know, she's dirty and a bit greasy, always looks amazing, of course. But that's just a product of being who she is.
Mm.
But then the journey. So at the beginning of the movie, the guys are more concerned than the
Right.
lead female, and then she grows into it. A lot of that's a, you know, tribute to James Cameron's writing when he created Ellen Ripley and Sarah Connor in the Terminator movies. You know, you can have powerful female characters without it mattering.
Mm. I love that. Thank you. So obviously Rogue is coming out August 28th, which is really exciting.
Yes.
What do you have other projects that you can talk about that you're looking forward to, or that you are going to be producing or working on, or just other stories that you're really interested in looking into telling?
Well, I mean, so Rogue was the first of hopefully 3 sort of eco-themed movies. Rogue's a very much an action-driven movie. I have a suitcase packed right down here right now. I'm getting on a plane tomorrow morning to go to Kenya to start doing the next movie. So I've been waiting for COVID to ease and for international travel to ease so we can get on with this next thing. Again, a small movie. This one is a more family, I would say family friendly. The movie's going to be very intense, but it's about a family and the dysfunctions within that whilst they try and survive in a wilderness. So it'll have themes about poaching and conservation, but at the same time, there's themes of, a young teenage boy trying to come out to his father, the dynamic of a family sort of struggling to be what they need to be for each other. So that's one movie that I'm trying to get made. Hopefully it'll work out. After that is going to be one about the sort of what we're doing to the oceans, and that again, but they'll all be genre pictures. They'll be entertaining first, and the message will be there if you want it. And then at some point, I do want to tell a trans story. I want to try and find a way of exploring how it was to live a life as a man for a long time and then coming out, and the expectations of what masculinity is, and how you unpick your previous sense of self from the new self, and what was real and what was an illusion, and things like that. But again, into a genre package.
Yes.
And I'll do something. I have a fairly wild plan for that. I'm not sure it's going to work out, so I don't want to curse it by saying it, but yeah, you'll know it when you see it. Put it that way.
I'm really looking forward to seeing it and everything else that you do. And I just want to thank you so much again, MJ, for this wonderful conversation. Everyone, please be sure to check out Rogue, which would be available August 28th. Is it on a streaming platform? I mean,
premium VOD, so Apple, Amazon, wherever you get your movies.
Basically everywhere. Check out Rogue on August 28th, and we'll be on the lookout for everything that you continue to do, MJ. And thank you so much again for being with us, and safe travels to Kenya.
Thank you, Alex. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, darling.